first look at this Oxford vaccine before we come to the other vaccines in this race. At this moment, I'm joined by Dr. K. Shrinath Reddy. He is President of the Public Health Foundation of India. Also joining me is Dr. Prabhat Jha, Professor Global Health University in Toronto, to give us a global perspective. Thank you both very much for joining us. I want to come to you, Dr. Reddy, first. How big a setback is what happened to the Oxford vaccine this week? Or do you believe it's simply a pause button which is being pressed?
Well, I think we still have to wait for our judgment on that till the Data Safety Monitoring Board gives its findings. But it is not entirely a surprise because we know that in vaccine trials, there will be side effects, mostly mild, but sometimes can be severe, and they warrant attention and investigation. And should they appear to be consistent and quite serious, then of course the trial has to be completely stopped because the safety considerations override anything else, particularly because we are giving vaccines to healthy human beings and not persons with disease, unlike in drug trials. Therefore, the moral responsibility is even more onerous. But in this particular case, they are investigating it. The jury is still out. We'll have to wait for the findings to see whether this particular event is causal or coincidental. Until that report comes back, we still have to hold our judgment.
Given what we've just heard from Dr. Reddy, Dr. Prabhat Jha, Professor at the Global Health University of Toronto, is this entire process of what's happened in the last week also revealing the limitations of putting extra pressure, in a sense, on virologists, on scientists, setting deadlines? Vaccines cannot work to deadlines.
That's true, and I think it is an emphasis that this due scientific process that Dr. Reddy outlined does need to be followed. I'm heartened by the fact that there's such a global effort to try to get vaccines, but we need to be cautious. Probably there will not be a single vaccine. We're looking at probably a suite of vaccines. For example, there might be some vaccines that you can't give in the ages that women get pregnant because of potential effects or uncertainty about birth defects. And there might be some vaccines that work better in older people than in younger ages. So what this calls for, and as the World Health Organization has very much emphasized, is global cooperation on vaccine development and on their use. Any one country, any one scientist saying we can solve this problem, well, we know that that's not going to work. So it does require global cooperation. That's happening at an unprecedented pace. The main concern of that, however, is what's called vaccine nationalism, where you see that the Russians have said, well, we have our vaccine, we're going to start use it. The Chinese government has made similar claims, and we're hearing noises from the US that the US will first worry about its own population and vaccinating them. So that's not a recipe for good global progress. What is needed is scientific cooperation, due diligence, and mostly shared decisions that make the vaccines available widely.